What's up guys, I'm Ali from Fox Coaching. Today's video tutorial is going to help you maximize your core training and help you spot signs that your core is weak with movements like sit-ups and leg raises, and especially if you start to experience a lot of lower back pain when you're doing abdominal exercise training. One of the key signs that your core is really weak is when you're doing abdominal exercises, your hip flexors start to take over with exercises such as leg raises. You'll be recruiting a lot of hip flexor action, so your legs actually are what tires out before your core does. Using the hip flexors in leg raises will probably look a little... And so we want to minimize the amount that your body recruits the hip flexors to help you with those movements. I'm going to show you how to do that. Also movements like sit-ups. If you need to do sit-ups with your feet anchored underneath something, like underneath the couch at home, or maybe you get your gym partner to stand on your feet or place a weight on your feet, this is a really good sign as well that your core is quite weak and your hip flexors are actually what are trying to help you perform that movement. When the hip flexors are taking over, you'll find that you don't have a lot of control to come down out of the sit-up slowly. And you may also find that your shoulders are kind of dragging when you come up as well. So they're all signs that your hip flexors are doing the work instead of your abdominals in order to perform those movements. So we're going to work on how you can better engage your core so that you're getting the most out of your abdominal training, which of course is is going to help you to achieve either your six-pack goals or just to get a strong core. And of course it's extremely important for all of your other maximum lifts and your performance in the gym and in your sport as well. So first of all, we want to start with engaging your core with some isometric exercises. So the most common isometric exercise that you guys will probably be familiar with is a plank. So we want to make sure that we're doing our planks correctly. You want to make sure that you've got a nice neutral position of the spine. You don't have any bowing or sagging out of the hip. Making sure that we're squeezing everything, keeping it tight and toned so that we've got a good controlled plank to start with. Okay, so another great isometric exercise that we can use to help engage and control our core really correctly is dead bug. Key here is to make sure that I can keep contact with the floor with my lower spine, okay? So the idea that I often say to my clients is we're trying to imagine drawing our rib cage as close to our pelvis as we possibly can, and we're pressing into the floor as hard as we can. So now all of my core muscles are engaged, not just the outer abdominal. So all of my core muscles are engaged. We're gonna hold the legs here at a 90-degree angle. Now when you're just starting out, this might even be enough for you. Just holding this position and balancing this position and taking nice deep breaths, making sure that you can maintain that core control while you perform it, making sure that hips don't lift and the back doesn't start to bow out. And then from here we start to add a few movements, such as just moving our arms at first, maintaining that position. And then of course, progressing from there, we can start to add some leg movement as well. So making sure that our hips do not move, our lower back doesn't start to roll. When we start to add in both arms and legs together, once again making sure that we can maintain good core control. And that finally brings us to how can we engage more of our core muscles rather than hip flexors with movements that would otherwise seem to be primarily hip flexor movements, things like leg raises, whether you're supine lying or you're doing hanging leg raises, or things like scissors on the floor. The little trick here, guys, is to focus on curling the pelvis. So if we're going to do a supine lying leg raise, starting out, I usually encourage my clients to do things like an eccentric leg raise so they can make sure that they can maintain that good core control as we did with our dead bugs earlier. So nice and slowly allowing the legs to lower only to the point where you're not going to get that giving out in that arch of the spine. So we want to maintain that good core control. And as you're building up strength, you may find that you'll have to pull back a little bit early, just before you hit the floor. When it comes to going the other way, as we're raising the legs up, as I said, I want you to concentrate on creating that little bit of flexion and curling the pelvis. So don't focus on lifting the legs, focus on curling the pelvis to create that abdominal engagement and that core control. And breathing out hard as I lift up to encourage a contraction of those abdominal muscles. The very same goes for when you're doing hanging leg raises as well. For movements like scissors, or isometric, isolateral, flutters of the legs where you're holding those positions, once again, taking the hip flexor action out of that is just as simple as creating a little bit of flexion so you've got that conscientious abdominal engagement. So coming up, focusing on curling the shoulders off the floor, keeping the neck nice and neutral though. So I always encourage people to have their eyes on something above them so we don't have excessive neck flexion. But that little bit of flexion off the floor engages the core muscles so that now when you're performing isolateral flutters, the contraction is in the muscles that you want to target. Awesome team, that's it for me. I hope you find this video really helpful and useful. Pretty please hit the subscribe button below if you're liking my video tutorials, and I'll be sure to pop up some more. As always, please send through your feedback and your questions because it helps me decide what it is that you guys want help with and what you need to see. And when it comes to getting results, don't forget, you need to train smarter, not just harder. And I'll see you around.